Are you looking to grow revenues, increase profitability, or obtain financing? If so, you came to the right place.
Running a business is all about leadership. How do you become a better leader? Learn from the successful entrepreneurs and business owners how to lead your organization more effectively. That's why we created Leadership Live at 8:05, Talking Small Business, to help you succeed with your host, Andrew Frazier, Business Growth Pro and CFO and founder of the Small Business Pro University. Every Tuesday evening at 8 p.m. Eastern, we're joined by experienced entrepreneurs and business owners who share their secrets to success via live stream. Also, every Friday morning, we release a new podcast episode. Either way, you will learn about developing your business leadership skills from our roster of highly performing guest experts. Leadership Live is one of the many valuable resources provided through the Small Business Pro University, empowering business owners to learn, profit, and grow. Find out more at sbprou.com.
Good evening and welcome back to Leadership Live. I'm your host, Andrew Frazier, and really excited about coming hanging out with you once again tonight. As you know, each week we have a tremendous guest, and I'm looking forward to our conversation this week. Topic is relationship between revenue and relationships. So, definitely business is all about relationships. And, our guest tonight is an expert in relationships. He's built an organization around that, and look forward to talking to him, learning some of what he's learned and his expertise. As you know, at the end of the day, your business can only go as far as you're prepared to take it. So that's why we created Leadership Live, to help you be better able to move your business forward faster and easier. So let me invite our guest on today. His name is Jerome Hutchinson. How you doing, Jerome?
Great, Andrew. How are you?
I'm excellent. Thanks for coming and hanging out with me this evening.
Well, really glad to be here and looking forward to this Tuesday, November 11th version of Leadership Live.
Excellent. I know it's going to be a great episode. So before we get started, it would be great if you could talk a little bit about your journey, how you got to where you are. And, from there we can start really talking a little bit more about the topic. Sound good?
Sure, no problem. Well, I am a social impact entrepreneur, Andrew, and sometimes people, in the past 10 years or so, before we're unsure, like, what do you mean, Hutch? What's a social impact entrepreneur? But social entrepreneurship, or being a social impact entrepreneur, has grown in awareness of people. And mine is pretty much kind of a family DNA journey, almost, if you will. My mother was a social worker and my father was an entrepreneur. And my father was very big on entrepreneurship, economic empowerment, and really was a major force in shaping my life, along with my mother, who was just as major as well as a social worker. And both of my parents were very engaged in the community as civic leaders, business leaders, and so on. And so I was raised under the premises, to whom much is given, much is required. These principles, do unto others as you would have others to do unto you. And for we are a brother's keeper. And my father was very big and talking to me about economic empowerment and being self-determining, if you will, and so on and so forth. So I looked up, back probably about 15 years ago, and it was the end of the year, and I was looking at my life and saying, okay, so where am I now? And am I where I want to be? And am I where I'm going is where I should be. And one of the things I recognize is that I have become the social impact entrepreneur, and wasn't necessarily by intentional design, but based on who I am and what I do and what moves me and what inspires me. that's how I got here. So I come from a family of entrepreneurs. My sister is an entrepreneur as well, and so I've had early success in business, and going all the way back to 1985 when I launched my first company, Movies Plus, which ended up being a 3-store chain in my hometown of Louisville, Kentucky. We were a home entertainment retail operation and did that for 10 years. And then alongside with my father, we launched Kentucky's first Black-owned television station in Louisville, Kentucky, and the first Black-owned TV station in the state of Kentucky back in 1998. And did that with backing from a venture capital fund, and learned a lot about venture capital. People call it vulture capital sometimes, and it is an interesting process. And so we ended up really, quite honestly, being kind of kicked out, after less than about 6 months of getting the station on the air, because they wanted to go in a different direction, and they decided that he who has a goal makes the rules, and so they gave me a year's payout and said, "Hey, you go do what you want to do," and then they proceeded to run the station into the ground, unfortunately. But I left there, started a marketing consulting firm, and ended up going into radio for about 10 years, and ended up going to Houston, Texas, and Atlanta, and was recruited here. And in 2009, and I should probably say 2005, the entrepreneurial bug was still itching. And so I scratched it with my wife, who was a banker, and we got into what was then called Who's Who in Black South Florida, which was a publication recognizing accomplished Black professionals and entrepreneurs. Unfortunately, she died in 2008 and in 2007, sorry. And then we ended up moving into what is now the ICABA World Network as a result of her leaving and deciding to go into a different direction than the publication that we had originally started with. And that's how I got to where I am today. And from there, we've created a collaborative success ecosystem for Black professionals and entrepreneurs worldwide, helping us to succeed, lead, and prosper as we showcase Black excellence, collaborate, connect, collaborate, and elevate together, and advancing wealth and elevating leadership. So that's my quick story, but I can't end that story without saying a couple of things. One, for sure, son of God, and my mother and father, sister, and also I got 2 daughters, Kristen and Naomi, who live in LA.
Excellent. So thank you for sharing. And, just like me, you have entrepreneurship in your blood. And, definitely that helps with the drive. And, definitely that's why we do what we do. So again, excited to have you on the show. We've been talking a lot recently about ways we can collaborate, and really looking forward to that. Before we go too far on the show, I just want to, for all the listeners and people who've tuned in, we always have new people tuning in. So just want to thank everybody for tuning in. Definitely feel free to put any questions or comments you have in the chat, and also tell us where you're from. Put that in the chat as well. And I'm looking forward to a great show. So let's start with just a quick video about what Small Business Pro University is, because this is one of our Brain Trust initiatives, but we do have a lot of resources for entrepreneurs and business owners. Many small businesses experience low or no revenue growth, and the owners are not making enough money. I founded Small Business Pro University to help you break that cycle by empowering you with greater knowledge and enhanced skills to lead your organization more effectively. Over the past 15 years, I've collaborated with organizations like the Small Business Development Center, Rising Tide Capital, Empower the Village, NJMEP, Rutgers University, and SCORE to work one-on-one with over 1,000 business owners and teach tens of thousands of people about business. My experience includes serving as a naval officer, managing businesses, graduating from MIT, earning an MBA from NYU, and achieving the CFA designation. which has prepared me to accomplish my mission of helping 1,000,008 business owners to sell more, maximize profit, and finance growth by 2028. My vision is to create the ultimate business ecosystem for entrepreneurs. Small Business Pro University empowers entrepreneurs like you to run their businesses more professionally and create sustainable enterprises. We employ my proven proprietary Masterpreneur Playbook framework to guide your journey along the Masterpreneur path and facilitate your Masterpreneur evolution to work on your business and scale faster and easier. Small Business Pro University provides access to valuable resources, partnerships, and relationships that will help you to sell more, maximize profit, and finance growth. Our Masterpreneur initiatives include the Small Business Pro Network, 100+ expert-led multimedia courses, intensive training workshops, Spanish language training, Leadership Live at 8:05 live stream and podcast, in-person Power Breakfast events, and advisory coaching, consulting, and training services. All right, welcome back. Andrew Frazier here with Jerome Hutchinson, talking small business. Tonight's topic is relationship between revenue and relationships. I always like to start with definitions, because just to make sure everybody's on the same page. So everybody knows the word relationship, but not everybody has the same definition of relationship. So Jerome, how would you define relationships for what we're talking about tonight?
Well, as you talk about relationships as it relates to revenue, I think the bottom line is that relationships are probably the most key dynamic in the humanity of all of us. Nobody got here by themselves, and you weren't even created by yourself, and you won't leave this world by yourself. And so all in between is really about those engagements, those connections, and those collaborations that help to fuel your ability to have aspirations and to be able to pursue and achieve those aspirations. So you need someone. There's those sayings that it takes a village to raise a child, and nobody got there on its own. Those things are so very, very true. And so one of the things that's so critical about relationships as it relates to revenue, business growth, success in life is that it's important that you cultivate and you nurture those relationships before you need them. You can't wait until you've already gotten sick, before you decide, to take the vaccine to prevent whatever it is, that illness that you may have. You can't wait until, the car is already broken down before you decide to go to the auto mechanic and give it a check before you got on the road. So there's preventive measures that we have to take in different things in our life. And as it relates to relationships, the preventive measure there is that always be building relationships before you need them and cultivating them. And the key to building and cultivating relationships is really being of value to people. A lot of times people want to build relationships that can do something for them, but the real key to life is what can you do for others? And if you do enough, I like what Zig Ziglar says, that I get what I want in life by helping as many people get what they want out of life. And I think it's absolutely true. Building relationships, being of value, assisting others, having a genuine interest in other people is pretty much like planting seeds and watering those seeds that will eventually grow a harvest that you will be able then to reap. And when it comes to that, at the same time, in terms of your relationships, help people along, be of assistance, show genuine interest in what they're doing. Those are the things that nurture and cultivate the relationships. And when you need those folks, they'll be there for you. And that happens all along life, business, and career.
So true. I mean, relationships are super important. And that's a great way to define them and look at them. Now, there's a lot of talk about networking, but networking isn't the same as relationships.
Right.
What's the difference, and how are they similar?
Well, the general folks will say, well, they are probably similar and the same. But I think you're right. There is a distinction here that does have a bit of a difference. And that distinction is this. Uh, Most people think about networking as going out, as meeting as many people as you can, and sharing who you are and coming back with business cards and so on and so forth. But relationships is really about creating something that exists beyond a transaction. You're not just meeting somebody for the sole purpose of engaging in something. You're meeting somebody who you are looking to, again, as I said, provide some value and have some genuine interest in who they are, what they're doing, and trying to see how you can be of value to them. And so that when you look at a relationship, that is something that, we can all think about our circle of influence being our friends, our networks, and family. And I would probably say to everyone here that if you thought about the vast number of people that if you really needed something, who would you really call? And I bet you that vast number of people that you have in your Rolodex, in your head, whatever how that exists in terms of knowing who they are, that if you think about that and somebody that you really need something from, or that you really need that somebody could help you with, that number probably goes down to a very small number of people real fast and real quickly. And a big part of that is those folks that, you've been there for, and you've gone through things with, you've shared things with, and you spent time with. And that's what's so critical about a relationship. A relationship is so contingent upon the quality and the kind of interaction that you have with those individuals. And so let's talk about, as an example, if you're a business owner and you need to borrow some money, and when was the best time to go to your banker to borrow some money and build a relationship with them? I would suggest to you that it's not the time that you actually need the money. If you know that you're thinking about a business, it would behoove you to really consider going to a banker or going to a source of capital, whether it may be an investor and whoever else that may be, and begin talking to them about your idea, and also find out about who they are and what they do. If they're an investor, if they're a banker, ask them, hey, how is the business these days in terms of the banking industry? Or what kind of things are our investors seeing today? Begin to find out how successful they are, or find out what their needs are, or what their values and what their opportunities are. And as you do that, it will help you to understand how that when the time comes for you to partner with them, ask them, borrow, lend, invest, you'll have a better idea of who they are and what they're about. But more importantly, they're going to have a better idea about you. They're going to know that you have spent time with them, shown genuine interest, been of some value to them. And I guarantee you, you're going to be in a much better position to have a fruitful relationship with that individual when you may actually need it. So if you do that, and let's say, for instance, you built that relationship with a local banker and you talk to them about the business that you want to build, and they begin to understand what you're doing, and they begin to see some value and opportunity in that. And they may share some things with you that will help you in how you develop and you grow that business. Well, if you go back to them to borrow money, I suspect that they will be much more, if you will, likely to loan you the money because they already know you. 2, they know your business. 3, they know that you have come to them for counsel, advice, and guidance, and they can see where you've used that. Those things are huge. They're intangible. You can't put your hand on them, but I guarantee you it makes a big difference in terms of your ability to be able to turn relationships into revenue and opportunities.
Excellent. Okay. No, that's great. Thank you for sharing that. We got a few things coming up next week, so I definitely want to just make sure that we're communicating so that so I'm just going to take a quick minute for some information. So next week, if you're in New Jersey or if you want to come to New Jersey, we're having our Masterpreneur Breakfast, formerly known as the Power Breakfast. It's going to be next Friday at the Park Avenue Club. If you're in the area, it's one of New Jersey's premier networking events. So hopefully you can join us at the Park Avenue Club. We'll put the link in the chat as well. We have a breakfast power networking event the night before at Montclair Brewery. So you're welcome to join us then as well. So opportunity to really connect with some movers and shakers and a lot of entrepreneurs and business owners. So you're welcome to join us. We'll put that in the chat as well. And at the breakfast, I'm actually, once a year I speak at the breakfast, and I'm going to be speaking about 10 strategic levers that scale your business. So you definitely don't want to miss that either. So definitely, if you can join us next Thursday evening or Friday, you're welcome to do that. So back to Jerome. So Jerome, how do relationships and marketing fit together? How do they impact, what's the importance of relationships to marketing successfully?
Well, there's marketing to the one to many, and then there's marketing, one to one. And generally, the one to one is where the relationships become really critical. And I've told this story a few times to folks, and I start out with also emphasizing to your listeners and your audience that likability, okay, is a very important aspect and dynamic of anybody's persona, the character to have. We do business with people that we like. Okay, it's kind of hard to do business with somebody, or somebody's hard to try to do business with you if you just genuinely don't like that person, if they're irritating, if they seem to be only about themselves. So likability is critically important. And one of the things that I saw a TV show once, and there was a guy just met this individual, and they were talking, and the other guy was really doing all the talking. And so when someone else walked up, and I think they were about to go somewhere, so came up to grab the guy who was doing all the talking, and they walked away. And the guy asked me, "Who's that guy that you were talking to?" He's like, "You had a really good conversation going." "Oh yeah, he was a great guy. Loved talking with him." And there was a little blurb in terms of the crawl across the screen saying, "Yeah, people love to hear themselves talk, and if you listen to them, they're going to love you too." So, relationships are really critically important, and showing interest and giving yourself some time to meet people. I remember back years ago, I was a member of the board of the directors for the Kentucky Derby Festival in my hometown of Louisville, Kentucky. Many of you have probably heard of the Kentucky Derby, and the festival was a series of events that went all around the month of May and April related to the Derby. And I happened to be working with another board member at the gate, and for people as they were coming in and just checking their ID. So we all on the board had a lot of different jobs that we would volunteer for. And so this guy and I, we didn't know each other, and he worked for one of the local tech companies. And so he told me his story. I told him my story. And as we shared each other's stories, one of the things I shared with him was a project that I had coming up, and I was actually looking for sponsorship for it. And I didn't ask him for sponsorship, and I didn't even mention that I was looking for sponsorship. But when I mentioned it, he says, "Hey, well, you need sponsorship for something like that. That sounds like what you're doing is something we would like to do." Well, long story short, this was 1997, and just by that conversation I had with him, in terms of building relationship, and the relationship not only came from us meeting there, but by virtue of being involved in the community, giving back and volunteering, but walking away, that night with a $10,000 sponsorship. And I didn't have a sponsor packet, okay? And I didn't have anything to really demonstrate beyond the fact that we shared who we were and got to know each other. He liked me, he liked the things that I was talking about, and I liked him. So likability can be a major factor. And I even say to folks all the time, when you hear about people getting jobs, when people getting promoted, being recognized, one of the things that you hear, there's the constant refrain, the constant theme. "Yeah, she's really a great lady," or "He's a good guy. I really like them. Everybody likes them. They're really good." You don't really hear per se, "Yeah, that person has a great SAT score," or "That person, was cum laude in college, or, we don't talk in that way as humans. We talk about from more of an emotive, if you will, standpoint in terms of our relationships and how we see them. So being likable, okay, is something that can build relationships, and you can definitely convert likability into being currency as it relates to building relationships that end up generating revenue.
No, excellent. I mean, definitely likability is key. It's one of the three pillars I think of when I think of, what has to happen for someone to buy from you. And it's really, they have to know you. They have to like you, but they can't like you if they don't know you. And they have to trust you, and they can't trust you if they don't know you. So when you pull all those together, that increases the likelihood of being able to do business together and other great things. So, one thing that I found is longevity is important when you talk about relationships. And, how has longevity of relationships impacted you and your business?
Well, I think longevity signifies to people, one, that you've got a commitment, that you persevere, that you're doing something right, because you won't be in business, much for a long time if you're not doing something right. So it gives you some credibility, in the marketplace. And so, that does, if you will, give you a really positive, if you will, currency in the marketplace when there is longevity in terms of what you represent, your brand, your company, and so on. And as it relates to, relationships, those relationships that you build over time give you, a lot of opportunities to serve one another. My title I changed about 15 years ago from being the founder and chief executive officer of my company. And I changed the title to being the founder and chief servant officer of my company. And it was kind of interesting. It was an evolution for me. One of the things I learned, very early in my business career was that a lot of what we do as business owners, people see us as being the boss and being in charge and being the leader. But in reality, we're the biggest servants going. You're serving your landlord who you're paying rent to. You're serving your banker who you're paying your note to. You're serving your employees to make sure that they, have what they need to show up and be productive and to be viable, in the business. And you've got vendors who you're serving. You've got advertising mediums that you have to pay. So you're serving a lot of people, and nonetheless, obviously, your customers. And so it dawned on me that the trying to replace relationships on a regular basis is a very, very costly endeavor. But if you can build equity over time by having relationships that last, and every relationship, the longer it goes, typically it goes through some ups and downs, or may go through some things that may challenge the relationship. But when you meet those challenges together, because you were being, if you will, upfront with one another, you communicated, you were trustworthy, you stood by somebody when they needed you, or they stood by you when you needed them, man, that makes that relationship, my dad used to use a phrase called, that just makes the cheese that much more binding. Well, that makes their relationship that much more binding when, as time goes on and whatever happens, over the course of time, which things will happen, but you stay the course and you maintain that relationship, they just get bigger and stronger and more productive and more valuable.
Definitely great points. I mean, I think, especially in business, there's, a lot of people who are in business and they're not in business anymore. So, I was a member of a chamber, and, for the first couple of years, I didn't really get much business. But about the 2-year mark, people are like, oh, well, who are you? What do you do again? So sometimes it takes time for people to get comfortable with you. They talk about you need to have 7 to 12 touches in sales, and it can be many more. So being around, being visible, connecting with people, reconnecting. I remember one of my mentors in business school, he said, you're always going to be successful because you follow up. And that's an important part of relationships. What are your thoughts on follow up, and how do you follow up with people, Jerome?
Well, I think following up is the thing that can distinguish you and amongst, if you will, the crowd, so to speak. We all know how many times we've met somebody and they said, hey, I'm going to give you a call. We're going to meet, and or let's do this or let's do that, or I'm going to send you this, and so on and so forth. And you never hear from that person again. And that's just part of life. I mean, I'm not throwing shade at anyone. That's just the way things go. But if you've probably had the experience that I've had, and it's been on both sides of the equation, where I have followed up with somebody and they were literally kind of surprised, like, wow, you said that you were going to call, like, hey, wow, you actually called, or you said you were going to do this and you followed up on the things that you said that you were going to do. It can really make a big difference in terms of the respect. And, you mentioned something earlier, Andrew, and that's trust. And, that likability kind of comes back in it too, because, you don't trust people for the most part that you don't like. So, and you don't want to get to know people who there's something that's not likable about them. And so as it relates to, the longevity and so on and so forth, it really does kind of it makes a big difference, if you will.
Excellent. So, we've got some good questions from the audience. So I want to make sure we cover a few of them.
Okay.
So this is a good one because, how do you balance making money with maintaining genuine connections?
Well, I don't think it's probably for me as hard as it may be for others, mainly because my business model is all about making connections, creating collaborations, and building community. And the more connections, the more collaborations, and the bigger our community get, the more money that we'll make. So doing good ensures that we do well. And so it goes hand in hand. But I do know that there's a lot of different business models and industries and that kind of thing. And sometimes your business practices can sometimes be in discord, if you will, with personal relationships. Take something just as simple as, having a restaurant. And as much as you may want to feed all of your friends and give them good deals, if you did that, you may have friends that were, feeling good about eating at your place and enjoying great meals, but that's not going to do a whole lot for your bottom line. You may have a product that you're selling in the marketplace, and you've got people who you've built relationships with, and over time you extended them credit, and next thing you know, somebody hits a rough patch, and you have to make a decision. Can I continue to extend this person credit because they're a friend, we've been in business, we've known each other for a long time, or do I need to sometimes think from the perspective of cutting my losses and just kind of move on? And so those are value calls and judgment decisions that you have to make. And I would say to you that when those kind of times happen, one of the best things that you can do is definitely be upfront and candid and transparent with someone. And again, authenticity, genuineness, sincerity, those are the great currencies of building relationships. And if you've been that way, you can make it through things that are going on. And I used to really, preach, and I still do, a adage by the philosopher Nietzsche. And Nietzsche says, people can endure anyhow if they know the reason why. And so if you're honest and upfront with people about what's going on and what you're challenged with in making a decision, it will make a big difference. And so be honest, be upfront, and do what's in the best interest, and look for any kind of way that you can to be of assistance, where if you can do that, to assist somebody where the relationship could be, if you will, damaged by just making a blunt decision to either cut them off or not do business with them going forward. But it is tough, and you do have to balance your business and you have to balance the decision making. The other thing is keep in mind that you can sometimes, and I've done this, I've told people like, listen, I can't do this for you from the business standpoint, but I can help you in this way on a personal level. And when I do that, I know that whatever I do from that personal level, I don't look at that as something that I'm going to get back. I do it knowing that I may not ever get it back, but if I did it because I believed in that person and I knew that they needed it. And but you've got to keep your business going, and you've got to make good decisions based upon good business practices.
Okay, great. So yeah, no, definitely. They can go hand in hand, but it can be a balancing act. So you have to be thoughtful about it. So now, how can relationships make up for limited marketing budgets?
Well, they can make up quite a bit, honestly, John. I think that, years ago when I launched Kentucky's first Black-owned television station, WYCS TV, at that time, I had maybe about 3 years prior gone through Leadership Louisville. Some of you guys may be familiar with leadership programs in cities all around the country. And met a guy named Michael Mountjoy. And Michael was a partner in the CPA firm, Carpenter Mountjoy. And I had a CPA for the home entertainment retail business that we had. And as Mike and I began to become friends, get to know each other during the year that we were in Leadership Louisville together, he started sharing information with me that he would come across about television stations, financing, which you knew I was raising capital for the station operations, and just anything that he saw that was related to that. This was back in the days, which kind of dates me a little bit. We were actually, it was before email. And so he would fax information to me. And after a while, I was really impressed with the fact that here's this guy who has no real business, I guess you could say, with me that would justify him spending time, sharing with me and sending information to me for me. And it said to me that this guy was really interested in me, wanted to be of value, wanted to be of service. Long story short, instead of him going out and buying TV ads and newspaper print ads and being on the radio and so on, he used his time, he used his ability to recognize where I had interest and need, and on a regular basis, he would do that. And I talked to him later on, and I found out he did that on a regular basis with prospects and clients of his business. And that was definitely a form of marketing. And so I ended up becoming a client. And it really was in large part because of the way that he demonstrated his interest and created value. And so you can absolutely, through your personal relationships, time that you spend going out to chambers, as you were talking about earlier, Andrew, being involved on boards, which I was referring to you that I did, and by building relationships from that, all those things are a form, if you will, of marketing. And relationship building is definitely a great way to augment, and even, if you will, sometimes supplement any of your marketing that you're doing to grow your business.
Excellent. So yeah, so definitely, that's key. When you're a small business, your marketing budget is going to be small. And so you have to be creative, flexible, and proactive. And there's a book called Guerrilla Marketing that a lot of people refer to. And that's a key, outline some great things that you can do. But I created sort of a way that I communicate marketing 101 to my clients, because a lot of people don't really know what marketing is, or don't realize marketing is not sales. But marketing, the better you market, the easier it is to sell. So I kind of talk to them about there's 3 reasons why you have to market like a drug dealer, and
Okay.
they always like that. So number 1, they don't sell to everybody. Has anyone ever tried to make you buy drugs?
Mm-hmm.
They offer them, but you don't have to sell drugs because they sell themselves. But that's just because they offer them to the right people. Also, they don't overspend on marketing. You don't see them wasting a whole bunch of money on a whole bunch of different marketing things that may or may not work. And number 3 is they make friends. They build relationships. So, whether it's drug dealers on the street or drug dealers at the pharmacy, those are strategies, that underlying strategies to what they do. And that's really what marketing 101 is. If you do those 3 things, you're going to be a better marketer than most. So yeah, I mean, definitely, what you're talking about is right on time. So I'm going to take a minute for another plug, just because, our events are coming up next week. So once again, if you're in the area, we've got the Masterpreneur Breakfast, which was formerly the Power Breakfast. And just to get an idea of what it is, I'm just going to play a short video about the Power Breakfast. If you are looking to increase revenues, improve profitability, and or obtain financing for your business, you need to check out the Power Breakfast and Small Business Pro conferences.
My name is Andrew Frazier. One of the things we're here to do is supercharge your day.
Today's Power Breakfast has really been a phenomenal experience. I think it's exactly what business owners need, some true guidance of people who are genuine and really are leading them in the true direction of business growth and expansion.
The Power Breakfast is so important for the entrepreneurial community because it gives the various business people who come together an opportunity to interact and also do some business.
These events, hosted by Andrew Frazier, President and COO of Small Business Like a Pro, will supercharge your day.
All right, welcome back. I'm here with Jerome Hutchinson, talking small business. Our topic tonight is the relationship between revenue and relationships. We're having a great conversation. Appreciate everybody's comments. Feel free to continue comments and questions. Also, if you haven't checked in and let us know where you're from, just put that in the chat. We usually have people from all over the country and even all over the world. So we want to know where you're from. And definitely another question from the audience that I think is important, and we want to make sure you share is how can other business owners create a collaborative advantage like ICABA?
Well, first thing I say is join ICABA. Let's plug for ICABA. But when it comes to that, the key is that it only takes one other business owner for you to collaborate with. And so, I'm a big believer that someone says, start where you are, and, sometimes you have to bloom, where you're planted. And so, in other words, you already have a circle, of influence with friends, family, colleagues, and so on. So start right there. And again, I know I'm sounding like a little bit of a broken record here, but that's what fundamentals are. They really are the kind of things that you kind of do over and over again because they're fundamental to success. And that is be of value. Find out, what the person that, you're building this collaboration with, what they need, who they are, what are their interests, and how can you in any kind of way be of any support to them. It's really hard, for people not to like you when you are showing interest in them. And so just think about what you can do. And as you're doing that, generally, and it doesn't happen all the time, and every now and then you get people who are just about them, and it happens. So you write that off and you kind of keep moving. But generally, when you've shown a significant, genuine, authentic interest in someone and you try to be of value, human beings have a way of wanting to reciprocate, and so it becomes, if you will, a collaborative advantage for you when you are building those kind of relationships, and you are intentional, you're purposeful about it. And in today's world, oh my God, technology has really given us such a competitive edge as it relates to building collaborative advantages. I mean, you can put the information on people in your phone to an extent that allows you to know when their birthday is, maybe their anniversary, know their family, know their kids, know their wives, know their husbands, where they work. And you can use all kind of tools to remind you to send a note out to somebody at a certain day or a certain time. If you meet somebody, you can plug into your phone, set an alarm to be sure that I follow up with this person within 7 days. And so when you become intentional about building relationships and being of genuine interest and being of value, and you start putting things in place on your schedule, in your habit, in your routine based on that, as I just mentioned, using technology is a great way to do it. We have a lot of ways to give us, reminders and tips and ways that we can follow up with people that if we forget, that we get reminded and we get enabled to be able to do it. And it allows you to also be able to do it on a regular basis with multiple people. I know I have friends who send out information or, messages or things that of interest to a certain group of people because they know you have a certain interest that you share. So there's a lot of ways that you can do that.
All right, definitely. So, so we're covering a lot of stuff. Definitely appreciate questions from the audience. How do you measure the ROI of relationships in your business? Definitely business is business, and you want to have a return, but how can you understand the impact of relationships on your business, in your business?
Well, I think it's a two-sided equation, or two-sided coin, and double-sided equation. And what I mean is that what are you doing and what has shown up as the result of the efforts that you've made to be of value and build relationships, and look around and see, whether or not the people that you know and you've engaged with, if you can see any tangible difference in their lives, their career, their businesses because of what you've been able to share. That's one way. The second way to do it is to turn around and do the same thing to yourself, and that is when I look at my business and look at the success of my business, where did that come from and who's impacted my business success? Who got me to get this contract, or who became a member of our business, or who told somebody about an event that we were doing, and they helped me to find a speaker that would show up and be captivating and create, if you will, that kind of pull to make people want to come back to our events or introduce me to a sponsor. So if you take a look at what you're doing in your business and how that is working and where it came from, that's definitely a way for you to measure the ROI of your relationships. And so it's a two-sided street and double-sided equation. So look at both ways. What have you been able to do and what you can see as tangible results of those relationships that you've built and how you've poured into them, and then basically turn around and look at yourself and see, hey, for the people that are pouring into me, what can I look at and say that by virtue of the relationships that I built, what did I do that I may not have done if it hadn't been for a relationship, or what have I accomplished that was enhanced, if you will, by the nature of a relationship?
Definitely. Relationships can impact your business in so many ways. And if you don't stop to think of it, sometimes you won't realize that a lot of the business you get is actually because of relationships.
Right.
I have a new client as of the last couple months. I had coached him 8 years ago. And then he got to a point and reached back out to me and said, I want to work with you again. That type of relationship with people it is key. Like you said, I have I do the Power Breakfast. One of my sponsors is someone I worked at New York Life with when I was a executive there. 10 years after that, he found about what I was doing and he sponsored some of my events. So, relationships, the longevity, demonstrating that you're focused and consistent and persevere, all those things that you said are key.
You know what, Andrew?
Mm-hmm.
Relationships got you and I here.
There you go.
The relationship I had with Dr. Dion Roundtree introduced me to your brother Evan, and as a result of meeting your brother Evan and developing a relationship, he introduced me to you, and then total full circle, I ended up introducing you to Dr. Roundtree.
So yeah, I mean, definitely, relationships go many ways, and it's about value. You talked before, you don't have relationships with people who don't bring some level of value to you, and it could be on many levels. Even if you have a mentor, you should be bringing value to them. One of my mentors, I talked to his kid for him because his kid was like my age and talked to him about his career. That was extremely valuable to him. So, wherever you are, whoever you're with, whoever they are, there's different ways that you can add value. So yeah, cool. And it wasn't anything to me. So now, 1 hour really isn't enough to really dig into your extensive experience and knowledge, but we did get a taste of it and appreciate that. But before I let you go, if you could grace us with 3 key takeaways from our discussion on the show, because definitely we talked about a lot of things, but giving people 3 things to really focus on tomorrow when they're looking to build the relationships and grow their business would be great. And not only that, most people can't remember more than 3 things. So we want to make it easy. So would appreciate if you would do that. But before you do that, I'm going to play a short video about our most recent book. And then we'll come back and, share, give you a chance to share the top 3 things that people should take away. So we'll be back in a minute. Hi, Andrew here, and I'm excited to announce the launch of our new book, 99 Proven Tips to Accelerate Your Masterpreneur Journey. 5 years, 33 incredible guests, hundreds of powerful business lessons, and now it's all in one place. Introducing 99 Proven Tips to Accelerate Your Masterpreneur Journey, a brand new book built from the insights, wisdom, and strategies shared by the guest experts of our podcast, Leadership Live at 8:05, Talking Small Business. Inside, you'll discover actionable tips on how to launch smarter.
So if you have an idea that you have researched and you know who your customer is and you think that you've got the experience you need, now is a perfect time to start a business. But remember, start as a side hustle first.
Grow faster.
So sales is about problem solving, not about manipulating. You have to understand the math of your business, the sales math.
Lead more effectively.
You shouldn't expect someone to be you. You have to understand and create processes to basically train people on how to handle certain situations and basically set people on the right path, right? So they can become successful within your organization.
And scale your business with confidence.
Bet on yourself and not be afraid to take risks, and to know that you have within you the ability to accomplish your dreams and accomplish your goals.
Think like an entrepreneur. Now, I know there may be many entrepreneurs listening, but there may be some who aren't entrepreneurs. It's all well and good. I'm here to say entrepreneurship is not just something you do, it's a way that you think. And the characteristics of an entrepreneur's thinking are creativity, resourcefulness, courage, resilience, and passion.
This isn't theory, it's practical advice straight from entrepreneurs and thought leaders who have done it. 5 years of conversations, 33 voices of experience, and now 99 tips to accelerate your masterpreneur journey. Get your copy today. Pre-order now to reserve your signed copy. Click the button below or scan the QR code to order from www.sbprou.com/99-tips. Okay, good evening. Welcome back. As we close out the show with Jerome Hutchinson, we've been talking about the relationship between revenue and relationships. Want to just have you share the 3 key things that people should take away from our discussion tonight.
Well, if you're thinking about revenue and relationships, and you see relationships as being key to your business growth, then the first thing that you have to be is intentional. You can't just accidentally bump your way into building really a valuable network of individuals that can help to elevate what you're doing and be a resource. So you have to be intentional. And second, you've got to be genuine. You have to really be genuinely interested in other people, because people don't want, we all have kind of a sixth sense and can smell a phony, a mile away. And people have this sixth sense about people who don't really have any real interest in you. When they're talking to you, they're only trying to get something from you. And so if you're genuine, that's going to be the greatest currency that you'll have in being able to build relationships, because it will instinctively lead you to do the right thing. It will instinctively lead you to say the right thing and to ask the right thing of the person that you're dealing with. And lastly, it's about value. What value are you bringing to the relationship? What value are you bringing to the marketplace? And so shore up your value. Okay. What can you do to be of value to other folks? It might be your ability to encourage someone, or to give someone some guidance, or be able to point to a resource or information or opportunities that will help. So the more that you are capable and knowledgeable and aware of what's going on, that's going to raise your ability to be of value to other folks. So again, be intentional, be genuine, and provide value. And you will have revenue, value, relationships that are going to really make a difference in elevating your career, your business, and your life.
All right. Short and sweet. So being intentional. So you really need to have a plan or a strategy. Like they say, failing to plan is planning to fail. And unfortunately, too many business people don't plan as much or the way that they should. Being genuine. Relationship is about making friends. When you're in business, my clients aren't just clients that I work with, but they become friends. And they should, because I care about their success, they care about my success, and that's what friends do. And then bring in value. Nobody has time to waste, so it's important to be that the time you spend with them and they spend with you is valuable to both of you. This is great. I think that this has been valuable, and appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to hang out with us this evening. we do have one additional question.
Okay.
Because we overlooked something important. We've got ICABA, but what is ICABA?
Well, ICABA itself is an acronym, man. It stands for Identify, Connect, and Activate the Black Accomplished. Full name of our company is the ICABA World Network, and we are a collaborative success ecosystem helping professionals and entrepreneurs to connect with other like-minded, similar positioned individuals so they can succeed, lead, and prosper at a higher level. We provide an online community similar to something like LinkedIn, so where people can come, connect, meet each other, share information, and so on. We do a lot of events. We've done, probably over 400 events since 2005, and we've had close to 20,000 people in attendance to those events during that time. We have a podcast as well through our ICABA TV, which is thriving, and so you can find us on YouTube at ICABATV.com, and we also do a lot of events in the marketplace as well. So we just came out of one of our major initiatives in October, which is Black Professionals Month, and during the month of October, we have 3 pillars for Black Professionals Month. 1, showcasing Black excellence. 2, advancing wealth creation, and 3, elevating leadership worldwide. And so we, spend 31 days of events and showcasing and activities all geared around helping these folks from around the country get to know each other, build collaborative relationships, and a trusted community, which becomes that collaborative success ecosystem, which is ICABA.
Okay, outstanding. You're doing great things and excited about things that we're going to do together as well. Thanks again for joining me on the show. If you can hang out for a little bit, going to close things out, and then we'll catch up for a little bit. And definitely feel free to reach out to Jerome. You've got his LinkedIn information in the chat. You've also got his website in the chat, and encourage you to do that. So thanks again, Jerome.
All right. Thank you, Andrew.
Okay, excellent. So once again, appreciate everybody tuning in live tonight. And then if you're not here live, you're watching the repeat, thanks again. And hopefully you gotten something valuable out of it, like I have. I always love to talk about this kind of topic, and also just in general, as a business owner, your most important job is sales and marketing, and relationships are a critical part of that. So it's important to understand what relationships are, understand how to build them and sustain them, and hopefully you could take, even if you just take one nugget away from what you learned tonight, that's going to help you be able to generate more revenue over time. So thanks again for tuning in. Looking forward to next week as well. Next week we have Katie coming in as our guest, and we're going to be talking about sales uprising. So not just sales rising, but sales uprising. So looking forward to having Katie Nelson on to talk about that. And, always at the end of the day, the more that you know, the faster and more successfully your business is going to grow.
Thank you for listening to Leadership Live at 8:05, Talking Small Business. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and to the podcast on your favorite podcast platform. Leadership Live is one of the many valuable resources provided through the Small Business Pro University, empowering business owners to learn, profit, and grow. Find out more at sbpro.u.com.